Whether you're a wrestling fan or not, by now you've probably heard about the new scandals surrounding the WWE universe. And yes, I'm talking about the allegations of Vince McMahon and trafficking. And yes, I have the documents. If you're new to this channel, hello and welcome. I find official documents and show them to you, page by page, word for word. And I'm also a huge wrestling fan. If you've been here before, welcome back. And if you're wondering where I've been, stick around for the end of the video. I'll let you know what's been going on. So what I want to do first is take a look at a mainstream article to get a general idea of what's going on with these allegations against VKM. And just please be aware that this video will be covering topics of sexual assault and may be sensitive topics to some people, so just bringing awareness to that possibility before we move on here. I'm going to start with this article from NBC News. Former WWE employee accuses Vince McMahon of abuse, assault, and trafficking in a lawsuit. Janelle Grant, a former employee of WWE, filed the suit Thursday, which would have been January 25th, 2024, in Federal District Court in Connecticut. And as always, links to this article and any article that I reference in this video are available down in the description box. So let's dig into this article really quick before we get into the documents. So according to this article, a former World Wrestling Entertainment employee filed a lawsuit Thursday against the company, its founder Vince McMahon, and a former WWE executive, accusing the men of trafficking and abuse. Janelle Grant, a former employee of WWE, said in the lawsuit that she was, quote, the victim of physical and emotional sexual assault and trafficking at WWE. The suit was filed in the U.S. District Court for the District of Connecticut. Quote, today's complaint seeks to hold accountable two WWE executives who assaulted and trafficked the plaintiff Janelle Grant, as well as the organization that facilitated or turned a blind eye to the abuse and then swept it under the rug, says AmKay, the attorney for Grant, in a statement to NBC News. Quote, she is an incredibly private and courageous person who has suffered deeply at the hands of Mr. McMahon and Mr. Laurinaitis. Callis said Grant hopes the lawsuit will prevent other women from being victimized. A spokesperson for McMahon said the lawsuit is, quote, replete with lies, obscene, made-up instances that never occurred, and a vindictive distortion of the truth. He will vigorously defend himself, end quote. And again, we're going to look at that lawsuit page by page, word for word, so hang in there. This says, in a statement, a spokesperson for WWE's parent company, which is TKO Group Holdings, said, quote, Mr. McMahon does not control TKO, nor does he oversee the day-to-day operations of WWE. While this matter predates our TKO executive team's tenure at the company, we take Ms. Grant's horrific allegations very seriously and are addressing this matter internally. John Laurinaitis, the other former executive named in the lawsuit, did not immediately respond to a request for comment. The lawsuit includes accusations of sex trafficking, civil battery, intentional or negligent infliction of emotional distress, and negligence. According to the lawsuit, Grant met McMahon in March 2019 while he was the company's chief executive, and he, quote, dangled career-making and life-changing promises, end quote, while engaging in increasingly inappropriate behavior toward her. McMahon allegedly pushed Grant for a physical relationship in exchange for promised employment at WWE, the lawsuit said, adding that she felt trapped in an impossible situation, end quote, where she could either submit to his sexual demands or face ruin. Quote, Ms. Grant feared she had everything to lose and faced negative consequences no matter what happened, end quote, according to the lawsuit. The lawsuit said that Grant eventually entered into a physical relationship with McMahon and was given employment at WWE. Quote, despite Ms. Grant's expressions of unhappiness and attempts to end the sexual relationship, and while she came to understand that McMahon expected the physical relationship to continue as part of her employment, she had no idea how sordid it would become, or how the psychological and physical violence would leave her feeling helpless, isolated, and trapped, end quote, the lawsuit said. The lawsuit alleges that in 2020, McMahon began sharing sexually explicit photographs with videos of Grant with unnamed men inside and outside of the wrestling company. Because McMahon was CEO of WWE at the time, and Grant had an entry-level position at the company, quote, coercion was inherent in his increasingly depraved sexual demands, end quote, the lawsuit said. Grant also claims in the lawsuit that others at WWE knew what was going on, but, quote, actively sought to conceal the wrongdoing. Grant said in the lawsuit that she lost her employment at the company after McMahon said his wife had found out about their relationship in January of 2022, and that he put her under, quote, immense pressure to sign a non-disclosure agreement that would prevent Grant from talking about the misconduct. She eventually signed the NDA in exchange for payments, which McMahon later stopped making, the lawsuit alleges. The suit did not give details on the amount and frequency of the payments. The lawsuit is seeking to void the NDA, as well as compensatory and punitive damages. The lawsuit alleges that even after she was pushed out of the company, McMahon attempted to traffic her to an unnamed WWE star in March of 2022, when she was allegedly trafficked. The alleged abuse and predatory behavior, quote, has left Ms. Grant crippled both physically and mentally, end quote, and she suffers with, quote, debilitating symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder, end quote, the lawsuit said. WWE is alleged to have attempted to, quote, sweep the matter under the rug, end quote, following media reports of McMahon's involvement in a hush money payment scandal, announcing a special committee or its board of directors to investigate the alleged misconduct, the lawsuit said. So this here, the hush money payment scandal, we're going to talk about that too in a second, so keep that in mind. Grant alleged that this special committee never interviewed her or requested any documents, despite Grant saying she would cooperate, according to the lawsuit. Quote, Ms. Grant was groomed and coerced by McMahon and Laurinaitis, and the WWE stood by and facilitated efforts to keep Ms. Grant employed by WWE to ensure McMahon's continued sexual exploitation, the lawsuit said. This article ends by saying that World Wrestling Entertainment said last year that McMahon, who is also a majority shareholder, would be reinstated to the company's board. And that was after McMahon had initially stepped down as CEO in 2022 after the investigation found that he had paid nearly $15 million to 4 women to quiet claims of misconduct. That's that hush money payment. And then this says that even during his leave, McMahon maintained control over the company as a majority shareholder. In a November regulatory filing, WWE said, quote, Mr. McMahon can effectively exercise control over our affairs. So that's the general idea of what's going on with these new allegations against VKM and the WWE. And we're going to get to the lawsuit itself, I promise, but I do want to expand a bit on this information and show you some other pieces to this puzzle that connects this all together here. So what I want to do now is go back in time a little bit to June 16th, 2022. So we're going to go back and look a little bit at this hush money scandal. So here's an article from CNN Business. The headline says WWE boss Vince McMahon reportedly paid $3 million in hush money to cover up affair. It was actually more than that, but just bear with me for right now. So back in the summer of 2022, McMahon, then the CEO of WWE, was being investigated by the company's board for agreeing to pay a secret $3 million settlement to a former employee he allegedly had an affair with. And this is according to a Wall Street Journal report. So in this article, I want to point out that they are making this sound like this was a consensual affair. This article says the separation agreement, which was reportedly made in January, prevents the former, at this time unnamed employee from, quote, discussing her relationship with Mr. McMahon or disparaging him, unquote, according to the journal. So I just want to say this is not an uncommon thing. Non-disclosure agreements are signed all the time just to keep people from getting paid to divulge these details of these celebrities' lives. I'm not at all condoning any of this. Just at this point back in 2022, my point here is that this was made to seem like this was a consensual relationship. And it says this investigation began in April, and the investigation has, quote, unearthed other older non-disclosure agreements involving claims by former female WWE employees of misconduct by Mr. McMahon, end quote, according to the Wall Street Journal. Other misconduct claims were reportedly found against John Laurinaitis, the company's head of talent relations. So back in 2022, we have John Laurinaitis' name being brought into this as well. This article says that the WWE board was sent an email on March 30th that alleged McMahon, who was 76 at the time, hired this employee, quote, at a salary of $100,000, but increased it to $200,000 after beginning an actual relationship with her, end quote. The email also alleges that McMahon gave the former employee, who is 41 and was hired as a paralegal, he gave her like a toy to Mr. Laurinaitis. The WWE did not immediately return CNN's request for comment on this story. However, in a statement to the Wall Street Journal, a company spokesperson said the WWE is cooperating with the investigation and that McMahon's relationship to the former employee was consensual. So you see, WWE keeps affirming that the relationship was consensual. And again, I'm not defending McMahon in any way. My only point to make here is that this article is attempting to make this, they're attempting to kind of brush it off like it was a consensual relationship. The journal notes that WWE's board is made up of WWE executives and even members of McMahon's own family, including his daughter Stephanie, as well as Paul Levesque, her husband and former wrestler, we all know, Triple H. And I'm going to say a little something about that situation as well as we go along here. And McMahon has the majority of the shareholders' voting power. So I guess key takeaways that I'm trying to share here is that this article at this time in 2022 made this relationship sound like it was a consensual thing. Maybe, some gross stuff going on like here, like he was sharing her like a toy. And also at the time, this woman was unnamed. Now I want to share this article with you that I found on Salon. Again, links are in the description box. And this is an article by Irvin Munchnick. You might be familiar with that name. He is the author of Chris and Nancy, The True Story of the Benoit Murder. I talked a little bit about him in my series where I go through all of the Benoit investigation documents. And this article is from January 27th. And I'm not going to go through this whole article, but the link will be below if you want to read it in full. But there are some things that I want to point out to you in this article that I think are relevant to the document that we're about to look at. So this article just talks again about the Wall Street Journal has broken the story of a second stage of the scandal of Vince McMahon, the 78-year-old chief of WWE and its predecessor entities for the last 42 years. And it says here that shortly before this article was published, McMahon resigned his position at WWE and his parent company. So McMahon has now resigned again. And how many times has this been now? This seems to just be like this revolving door of McMahon coming in and out of WWE. But the question is, when McMahon leaves, does he ever really leave? And we're going to get into that too in a quick second, so bear with me here. Like it says down here in this paragraph that McMahon clawed his way back to power, seemingly sidelining his own daughter and company CEO Stephanie McMahon in the process. And then McMahon sold WWE to the Endeavor Group, which earlier had acquired the mixed martial arts group UFC, and that the combined company is now called TKO Group. And here's an interesting fact. TKO Group is run by Ari Emanuel, brother of former Bill Clinton aide and former Chicago mayor, Rahm Emanuel. And I think it's fair to add here that Rahm Emanuel also served as Obama's chief of staff, and he is currently the United States ambassador to Japan. But I had no idea that his brother Ari is running TKO Group. These people sure do get around, don't they? Now here's when things get really interesting. This article goes on to say that the new legal case against McMahon, recorded in a 67-page civil lawsuit complaint filed Thursday, goes far beyond the mere outline of the 2022 disclosures. And it's this 67-page civil suit that I'm about to show you, but I want you to understand that according to this article by Irvin Munchnick, And other sources are saying this as well, so this isn't breaking news. But the plaintiff, the woman who filed this bombshell lawsuit, is former WWE employee Janelle Grant, who says she was among the recipients of McMahon's hush money. So to be clear, the 67-page civil suit that we're about to go through, that was filed by Janelle Grant, who herself says she was among the recipients of McMahon's hush money. Keep that in mind. Then Janelle adds, that she initially agreed to a payment of $3 million, accompanied by a non-disclosure agreement, but she only received a first installment of $1 million. And now Grant is asking for the NDA to be voided plus additional damages. So I don't know about you, but I think this financial agreement is an important nugget of info to keep in mind when we dig into this lawsuit, as well as the fact that in 2022, when this hush money scandal hit the headlines, the interactions between McMahon and the at the time unnamed woman were described as consensual, and there was no mention of abuse. Now, it's probably necessary for me to mention here that I think McMahon is a piece of pure gutter shit. I have no doubt that he goes through women like teenage boys go through Kleenex. So don't come at me thinking I'm attempting to defend McMahon in any way. I'm also not victim shaming or whatever you call it. I don't doubt that Ms. Grant had terrible experiences with McMahon. Like I said, I think he is a garbage human being. And that's me being nice. But no matter what, it's always best to at least try to look at accusations such as these as objectively as possible. That being said, as a female, this is a huge red flag for me. And so I feel it's important to understand these circumstances before we look at the accusations in the lawsuit. I just want the facts to be all out on the table as we get into this. The last thing I want to point out in this article by Irvin Munchnick, it says that also named as defendants in the lawsuit along with McMahon are the company, meaning WWE, as well as WWE former executive John Laurinaitis. But it also says here, this says another shocking allegation in the new lawsuit is that McMahon set up Grant for with an unidentified WWE superstar as an inducement while that wrestler was being recruited for a new WWE contract after an interval fighting in UFC. In the wrestling dirt sheet world, analysts who have studied the timing of that episode and the profile of the fighter speculate that it may have been Brock Lesnar. And yeah, what Munchnick is referring to here by the timing of that episode, in the lawsuit, a specific date and event is mentioned, but the wrestler is not named. And I'll point this out to you again when we get to that part of the lawsuit. But allegedly, according to those in the know, so to speak, the individual is allegedly Brock Lesnar. Okay, one more thing, and I promise this is the last thing before we look at the lawsuit itself. From January 28th, here is an article from Bloody Elbow that Ronda Rousey says Vince McMahon will still have influence in WWE despite his resignation. So this article says Ronda Rousey doubts McMahon is gone from WWE, and I have to say I can see where she's coming from. McMahon never really loses his grip on the WWE, even when he, quote, resigns, because those that take his place are extremely loyal to him, so McMahon is always pulling the strings in one way or another. And here you can see this tweet where she says Bruce Pritchard is basically Vince's avatar. If he's still around, Vince still has a hand in the business. Vince was still running things through Bruce when he was, quote, gone before. And yes, along with Laurinaitis, Bruce Pritchard's one of the quote-unquote old guard, as I think they call the powerhouse that's been running WWE. But expanding on Ronda's tweet here, as long as McMahon's family is in charge, will Vince ever really be gone? And is Vince McMahon untouchable? I'm going to shamelessly plug my Chris Benoit videos. Link to full series playlist is in the description box, but it just seems like all of these scandals come over the WWE like wave after wave, just crashing over the WWE, and it just seems like nothing can take Vince McMahon down, like he's just this buoy bobbing around out there in the WWE ocean. This man has been virtually unsinkable so far, and scandal is nothing new to Vince, whether it's allegedly covering up murders, steroid accusations, or sexual misconduct allegations, nothing has taken this man down. Well, except for 2 torn quads. If you know, you know. So does Vince have an iron grip on the WWE, or is this new lawsuit the final nail in McMahon's coffin and the catalyst of big changes within the company? It will be interesting to see how this all plays out. I'll definitely be keeping an eye on things and checking if new documents are filed. If you want me to do a series on this, let me know in the comments. Anyway, that's the foundation I wanted to lay before going over the lawsuit. Thanks for your patience, and now we can get into the documents. I just want to take a minute to let you know I am not a legal expert or an expert of anything, really. I'm just a girl who loves to research stuff, and I also happen to be a huge wrestling fan. Also keep in mind that all of this, these accusations, the articles, the lawsuit, at this time these are only allegations pending the outcome of litigation. So please don't take anything I say seriously, and as always, do your own research. Also, the following content will contain descriptions of sexual assault. This content may be disturbing to some people. Watch with caution. Okay, here we go with the documents. I'm so excited to look through here. It's like a new toy. It's so weird how much I love looking at this kind of stuff. You can see at the very top there in the blue, the case number, it says document 1. So if you're interested in seeing videos as documents are filed in this case, and I will be keeping an eye on this, so just let me know in the description box. I'll do my best to do that. You can also see at the top in blue that this was filed on January 25th, 2024. And this is page 1 of 67 juicy pages that we get to look at here. So let's dig in. In the United States District Court for the District of Connecticut, over here to the left, Janelle Grant, plaintiff, versus World Wrestling Entertainment, Inc., now known as World Wrestling Entertainment, LLC, Vincent K. McMahon, and John Laurinaitis, defendants. You can see over here to the right, civil action number, and it says jury trial demanded. So, unless some sort of settlement is reached or some sort of agreement is reached, it looks like this will go to a jury trial. And it'll be interesting to see how this plays out, and if that trial, if it gets to that point, will be televised. So, let's take a look at the complaint. It says that the plaintiff, Janelle Grant, by and through her undersigned counsel, hereby files this complaint against defendants World Wrestling Entertainment, Inc., now known as World Wrestling Entertainment, LLC, referred to as WWE or the company, Vincent K. McMahon, hereafter known as McMahon, and John Laurinaitis, hereafter known as Laurinaitis. And Janelle Grant alleges as follows. So here we have an introduction. And now remember, these are allegations. Number 1, plaintiff Janelle Grant is a former employee of WWE who was the victim of physical and emotional abuse, sexual assault, and trafficking at WWE. Ms. Grant is filing this lawsuit not just to address her own suffering, but also to act for those who are afraid to speak out. Number 2, WWE's billionaire founder and executive chairman, defendant Vincent K. McMahon, lived in a penthouse duplex in Ms. Grant's apartment building. Oh, so they lived in the same building. That's interesting. Number 3, the two met in March 2019. So that was like approximately 5 years prior to this lawsuit, when Ms. Grant was dealing with profound grief and struggling financially after devoting years to around-the-clock caregiving. Her parents passed away. Oh, I'm sorry. On top of that, she was unemployed, and her family home was lost in her parents' bankruptcy. Oh, I'm sorry. That's really sad. Number 4, after her family passed away, Ms. Grant dedicated herself to finding gainful employment. Neighbors in her building provided career advice and sought her assistance with personal events. Personal events? What does that mean? Like, what qualifies as a personal event, and why were her neighbors seeking her assistance? What, birthday parties? Baby showers? What's a personal event? Ms. Grant used these non-paying roles and volunteer work in community initiatives to build her resume. Number 5, the building's resident manager wanted to help. She messaged McMahon to ask whether he would talk to her, sharing that Ms. Grant had been through hardship and would do great things if given a fresh start. And McMahon enthusiastically responded, quote, "Hell yes." And I can hear him saying that. I'm sorry. I am not trying to make light of this at all. I am who I am. I can't help it. Sometimes I'm an idiot and I laugh at things awkwardly. Number 6. McMahon befriended Ms. Grant, giving her hopes of a new life with promises of a yet-to-be-determined role at WWE, and showering her with attention and assurances, along with gifts like a VIP experience at WrestleMania. Heck yeah. But what seemed like a dream in the spring of 2019 quickly became a nightmare. Uh-oh, here it comes. Number 7. As McMahon dangled career-making and life-changing promises in front of Ms. Grant, he demonstrated an increasing lack of boundaries. During several meetings that were ostensibly about a potential job at WWE, he greeted her in his underwear. Oh, good Lord, why does this image come to my mind? So Vince greets her in his underwear, touched her, repeatedly asked for hugs, and spent hours sharing intimate details about his personal life. Yeah. I would think McDonald's be looking pretty good at this point. I'd rather be asking, do you want fries with that, than listening to an underwear-clad VKM share intimate details about his personal life. I probably would have dipped right then. Been like, sorry, apologizing for the giggles. I am not making light of this. If anything, I'm making fun of McMahon. Number 8, McMahon warned Ms. Grant to keep their, quote, closeness secret, lest rumors lead. It's really worded like, what? This document's really worded like this. McMahon warned Ms. Grant to keep their closeness secret, lest rumors lead to public trouble. And added that, while he protects loyal people, I sense a threat coming. McMahon said he protects loyal people and he had world-class legal resources on speed dial to deal with people who became a problem. Damn, Vince in underwear, and now allegedly a threat. And this woman still didn't see these red flags waving right in her face. Oh, for God, there's gotta be a John Cena joke in there somewhere. But I don't understand how she couldn't see these red flags right in front of her. I would have dipped out so hard and fast that Baskin-Robbins would hire me on the spot. I'm sorry. Okay, you know what? I'm not apologizing anymore. These are my honest and real-time reactions to reading this, and it is what it is. I do not condone violence of any kind. I don't know anything about this woman, but I do know McMahon is a womanizing, filthy bag of raw dicks. However, this wouldn't be the first time a woman falsely cried abuse, and so I think some objectivity here may be necessary. That doesn't mean I'm taking Vince's side. It means I'm not taking any sides. I'ma look at these allegations and call it like I see it. If you're offended by my thoughts, maybe this video isn't for you. But I can't morph my opinions to fit everyone else's mindset. I'd go crazy trying to do so. Number 9. As such, when McMahon pushed Ms. Grant for a physical relationship in return for long-promised employment at WWE, she felt trapped in an impossible situation. That being submitting to McMahon's sexual demands or facing ruin. What? Girl, how was this an impossible situation for you at the time? Those were not your only two choices. Come on now. Get your ass to McDonald's. Ms. Grant feared she had everything to lose and faced negative consequences no matter what happened. Okay, I'm not gonna say anything. Number 10. After succumbing to the pressure for a physical relationship, Ms. Grant was slotted into an entry-level position as a, quote, administrator coordinator, a position McMahon created for her in WWE's legal department. So, created for her. Ms. Grant began to work in that role on June 17th, 2019. So Ms. Grant has now endured McMahon for about 3 months until she finally gets a job that was created for her at WWE. But I'm curious whether she was unemployed for those 3 months, from March to June, or if she was still assisting neighbors with their, what was it? Personal events. How was she able to get by for those 3 months if she was already struggling financially in March? Number 11, Ms. Grant remained in that role with the exception of a temporary relocation to XFL, Extreme Football League, until McMahon verbally directed her to transfer to the Talent Relations Department, reporting to defendant John Laurinaitis on March 9th, 2021. Okay, so now from June 2019 to March 2021, Ms. Grant was employed in the legal department at WWE. So that's just short of 2 years. And I'm wondering why she didn't tell anyone at the legal department about the quote impossible situation that she felt she was in. So 2 years pass, and now she's being transferred to Talent Relations, reporting to Laurinaitis, who is another named defendant in this lawsuit. During a conversation the same day, McMahon explained that her presence in the legal department was effectively delaying efforts to hire a new general counsel for the company. What? Hold on. Let me read that again. Her presence in the legal department was effectively delaying efforts to hire a new general counsel for the company. Why would that? Anyway, okay. We're just gonna read through it. I'm not gonna let myself get distracted by rabbit holes. Not yet. Number 12, McMahon and Laurinaitis informed Ms. Grant that she would be promoted to Vice President of Operations in the Talent Relations Department. What? Providing her with an organizational chart reflecting this decision. Vice President of Operations? So, Talent Relations Department, is that where Triple H worked? What? Okay, this is me right now. I am all of this at once. So confused. Number 13. Shortly thereafter, they informed her that they needed her to begin at a lower level as a director, but promised her promotion to vice president after a 12-month period. What the heck? And this girl wasn't questioning this? I wonder if I would question it. If somebody would just be like, hey girl, you want a job and we'll put you in as vice president, would I question it or would I be like, wow, I got lucky? I don't know. Number 14. Despite Ms. Grant's expressions of unhappiness and attempts to end the sexual relationship, and while she came to understand that McMahon expected the physical relationship to continue as part of her employment, she had no idea how sordid it would become, nor how the psychological torture and physical violence would leave her feeling helpless, isolated, and trapped. Why didn't you leave? It was already bad to begin with. You could have walked away at any time. Why did you keep going back? Number 15. In March 2020, McMahon began sharing sexually explicit photographs and videos of Ms. Grant, including porn content he recorded. Whoa, so at some point in this timeline, wait, how did we get to this point where all of a sudden, this completely skipped over the part where they recorded this graphic content? If she was unhappy, well, we still have 60-ish pages to get through, so maybe this will all make sense eventually, but so far this all seems, I'm clearly a female, I'm a girl. And I fully support my fellow women's. I don't know what to say. Let's just keep going. So let's see. So McMahon shared this graphic content that he recorded, and Vince shared this content with other men both inside and outside the company, including with members of the television production tech team. Yikes. Yeah, that's not good. That's bad form. But I have so many questions. Like, how did it get to the point where he was recording this? Did she know he was recording it? Oh, good Lord, what a mess already. And this is just the introduction, right? Oh, this is why it takes me 20 videos to get through this shit. But this number 15 continues that he shared this material with men inside and outside the company, including with members of the television production team, executives, producers, and a world-famous athlete and former UFC heavyweight champion with whom WWE was actively trying to sign to a new contract and ultimately did sign that contract. So is this world-famous UFC champion the one that people are saying is maybe Brock Lesnar? I'm not sure. Number 16, given McMahon's omnipotent position at WWE, coercion was inherent in his increasingly depraved sexual demands. Okay, coercion was inherent. I'm really gonna get myself in trouble because I feel like everything I'm saying almost sounds like it's in defense of McMahon, and I fucking swear that's not what I'm doing here. Coercion was inherent, given his omnipotent position, which makes me feel like they're alleging here that because he was so powerful at the company, that it was an assumption that she needed to do these things. I'm gonna delete all that. Probably. Maybe. Given McMahon's omnipotent position at WWE, coercion was inherent in his increasingly depraved sexual demands. Specifically, while McMahon was CEO of WWE and Ms. Grant was employed as an entry-level coordinator in the legal department, McMahon recruited individuals to have sexual relations with Ms. Grant and/or with the two of them. Oh, for fuck's sake, now they're doing threesomes. Directed Ms. Grant to visit defendant Laurinaitis prior to the start of workdays for sexual encounters, and expected and directed Ms. Grant to engage in sexual activity at the WWE headquarters even during working hours. McMahon recruited individuals to have sexual relations. Interesting wording. Number 17. All this time, McMahon ordered Ms. Grant to keep their relationship secret, unless otherwise instructed, including lying to maintain whatever cover stories he fabricated. What a creep, holy shit. Number 18. McMahon's assurances that Ms. Grant was safe and independent rang hollow in light of his efforts to isolate her from friends and attempts to chip away at her identity until it was replaced with his desired role for her as, here we go, as his, quote, bitch, his, quote, fantasy, and/or his, quote, porn star, while occasionally intermixing softer descriptions like, quote, girlfriend, quote, baby, and even, quote, love when convenient. He exercised complete ownership and control over both her personal and professional lives. They weren't living together, were they? She was able to go home after work, right? I mean, I get that she's claiming it was a mental thing. I'm sure McMahon is a sick, manipulative son of a bitch, and I do believe everything Miss Grant is claiming about him so far. I don't think she's making this stuff up. I believe her. My problem is that it does seem like she had opportunity to speak out or to walk away at any point over these 3 years. On a personal note, I understand that I sound like a kid, but I am 46 years old and I have experienced abusive situations and relationships that sent me to a very dark place, and I ultimately became suicidal because I believed that everything was my fault and that it would never get any better. So this is something I take very seriously. What I do have a problem with is the rare occasion of someone making accusations as some sort of revenge tactic. Like I said before, it wouldn't be the first time, and the Amber Heard-Johnny Depp trial isn't the only instance of this occurring. I have a problem with it because false allegations dilute the power of the real victims. It mutes their voices, and I am not about to stand for that. Number 19. McMahon also subjected Ms. Grant to acts of extreme cruelty and degradation that caused Ms. Grant to disassociate and/or become numb to reality in order to survive the horrific encounters. Number 20. As one example of McMahon's extreme depravity, on May 9th, 2020, Okay, this is the part I heard going around the news wires. This is what everyone's been talking about. Just warning you again, it's about to get graphic, and I have to censor certain words so I don't lose my channel. Here we go. Mr. McMahon defecated on Ms. Grant during a threesome, and then commanded her to continue pleasuring his, quote, friend, the other individual in this threesome. And this is in bold and italics, so they're serious about it. With feces in her hair and running down her back. Oh, good Lord, girl. While McMahon went to the bathroom to shower off. Okay. Upon his return from the bathroom, McMahon and his, quote, friend actively resumed the threesome, which lasted over an hour and a half, while Ms. Grant remained covered in McMahon's filth. How could you not vomit out all of your internal organs in that situation? I could have never kept that going for an hour and a half, not in those conditions. Nope. Nope. When McMahon's, quote, friend left, McMahon ordered her to stay and to continue to actually gratify him. Oh my fuck, McMahon, what the fuck is wrong with these people? Oh my god. Number 21, in June of 2021, McMahon and defendant Laurinaitis sexually assaulted Ms. Grant inside Laurinaitis' office in WWE headquarters while colleagues were busy at their desks. Behind a locked door, the two men cornered her and pulled her in between them, forcibly touched her before ultimately putting her on top of a table in between them. She begged them to stop, but they forced themselves on her, each taking turns restraining her for the other while saying, quote, no means yeah, oh god, no, no, no means no, and quote, take it, bitch. Damn, man. Number 22, unsurprisingly, others at WWE knew what was going on, but instead of intervening to protect Ms. Grant, WWE actively sought to conceal the wrongdoing. Oh, that's just as bad. Number 23, in January 2022, McMahon told Ms. Grant that his wife had found out about their relationship. Wait, so now it's a relationship? Purportedly to avoid divorce, negative publicity, and other repercussions, McMahon said that Ms. Grant's time at WWE was at an end. Oh, of course. But that he wanted her to sign an NDA to ensure her silence on, among other things, his personal misconduct. So she's basically getting fired now. I guess Vince is done with her, probably already moved on to his next fantasy, and he wants Ms. Grant to now sign an NDA, meaning she was technically and legally free to speak out about this terrible situation she found herself in. Over the years, she endured it all and said nothing. Because according to this lawsuit, her only two choices were either endure this or face financial ruin. And now, after everything she's been through, and I'm not being sarcastic here, I'm serious, after everything she describes happened to her, now she's faced with another choice. She could sign the NDA, or, hear me out, she could tell Vince to get fucked and go public with her story. Could have filed this lawsuit back then. But we already know what she chose to do, don't we? Because it's no longer a secret that Ms. Grant is one of the women involved in the 2022 hush money scandal. So we know she signed the NDA. But why would she sign it if she was so concerned that McMahon would do this to other women? Was she blackmailed or threatened? Number 24, in the days ahead, McMahon put Ms. Grant under immense pressure to sign, saying that refusing would not only jeopardize McMahon, his family, and the company, but that she would surely become a public headline, suffer reputational ruin, including from the pornographic content McMahon had captured, and face McMahon's legal resources. So he's blackmailing her now and holding this explicit content over her head in order to get her to sign this NDA. What a dick. Conversely, McMahon reassured her that her signature would ensure his continued support and protection and safeguard her reputation. Oh, man. Ultimately, Ms. Grant succumbed to the pressure and signed the NDA in exchange for payments, which McMahon later stopped making. What a dick. Number 25. Even after pushing Ms. Grant out of the company and muzzling her with an NDA, McMahon continued efforts to exploit her, including attempting to traffic her to a WWE star who would be in New York City for a live event and TV taping in March of 2022. Oh, I'm gonna have to look that up. Who could that be? Or is this Brock Lesnar as well? Allegedly. Number 26. Understandably, defendants' predatory conduct has left Ms. Grant crippled, both physically and mentally, including from debilitating symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder and suicidal ideation. These symptoms led to her termination from her subsequent job running her building's operations due to her inability to leave her home for weeks at a time. Indeed, I know what that feels like, and it is not fun. Number 27. Despite McMahon's promise of reputational protection, WWE appears to have leaked information that led to the public disclosure of her name by a media blogger. who cited, quote, a source in WWE with direct knowledge of the situation, end quote, which, upon information and belief, was an overt intimidation tactic aimed at Ms. Grant. Number 28, WWE has also attempted to sweep the matter under the rug. Following media reports that McMahon was involved in a hush money payment scandal, WWE released a statement in June 2022 to announce that a special committee of its board of directors was investigating the alleged misconduct and appointing Stephanie McMahon as interim CEO and interim chairwoman. Well, okay, but how objective could this special committee actually be if the investigation committee is the board of directors of the company? And then also the appointing of Stephanie McMahon as interim CEO and chairwoman. Is McMahon's influence really gone from the company if Stephanie is still involved in such a high position of authority? I don't know. Number 29, in this capacity, Ms. McMahon, I guess as Stephanie, in the capacity as interim CEO and chairwoman, she publicly affirmed her commitment to, quote, doing everything in her power to help this special committee complete its work and to implement its findings. She also declared the, quote, importance of a safe and collaborative workplace, end quote. Notwithstanding this public statement, the investigation was a sham. Yeah, I have to say, Stephanie McMahon publicly affirming her commitment to doing everything in her power to help the special committee complete its work. What work was the special committee supposed to complete? Proving the truth or protecting McMahon? I mean, it's her father. And again, these are all allegations. Everything that I'm reading here and everything I'm saying, allegations until otherwise proven, pending outcome of litigation. Number 30, in November 2022, WWE touted the conclusion of the special committee investigation into the misconduct. Yet the special committee never even bothered to interview Ms. Grant or request any documents, despite Ms. Grant stating that she would cooperate. Yeah, that's shady as f***. Number 31, in SEC filings, SEC is the Securities and Exchange Commission. The company, WWE, tried to divert attention away from McMahon's use of women by focusing on the technical issue of how hush money was accounted for. In the words of the company, the issue was, quote, immaterial accounting errors related to certain payments that Mr. McMahon agreed to make during the period from 2006 through 2022, end quote, emphasis added. That's a 16-year time span, so are there other women he paid off? Will these other women come forward now? Number 32, through all this trauma, Ms. Grant has endured profound suffering in silence, feeling of exploitation, loss of security, and the fear of facing the wrath of WWE and McMahon's army of attorneys if she were to come forward and bring to light the egregious acts detailed herein. That time has passed, and Ms. Grant seeks to hold defendants accountable for their reprehensible and unlawful acts for her own sake and for others. And number 33, Ms. Grant seeks a declaratory judgment that her NDA is invalid under federal and state laws and asserts claims other laws, including the Trafficking Victims Protection Act. 33 items in the introduction of the lawsuit. Coincidence or not? And then the next section we're going to get into the parties involved, but I think this is a good place to end for now. So that was the introduction part of the lawsuit. About 6 pages out of 67 total pages so far, or at least at the time I'm recording this. We have 61 pages to go, and I have a feeling it can only go downhill from here. If you liked the video, please give me a thumbs up, and subscribe, and hit that bell so you are notified when part 2 drops. Due to the content, this video will probably not be eligible for monetization. If you'd like to support the channel, you can send $1 my way at the Cash App link in the description box below. This is AmKay at Purple Sky 11. As always, thank you for your time and listening to what I have to say, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Bye!